Follow the money.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money.
Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Here we go. It is Follow the Money on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Mitch Moss along with Paulie Howard. We're live in downtown Las Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino. And this show, as always, is brought to you by DraftKings. We will run the floor today with every game in the National Football League. We'll hit the big ones a couple of times throughout the next 3 hours. Good guests on the program today, including Adam Chernoff a little bit later on, and we'll get a breakdown on this injury report, which is a very key one today, Paulie, to look at with the Dolphins and the Cowboys as well. Rams impressive again last night. They covered. That final score was misleading. They blew the Saints out, and that game played out kind of like we hinted yesterday, where the Saints had played garbage all year long at quarterback, and when they didn't, they gave up a lot of points and they lost. But that you saw a little bit of everything last night, right? The creativity, the amount of motion the Rams used on offense was fantastic to trick a defensive-minded head coach in Dennis Allen, where they had no solution whatsoever on that side of the ball. Stafford goes for more than 300. Puka Nacua, live for Rookie of the Year?
Well, listen, I've never seen a wide receiver come in as a rookie and dominate other than Randy Moss in 98. I think he had 17 touchdowns. Puka has more yards already. So this is staggering what he's doing. And if Stroud misses more games, I think he's got a shot here. What he's done, 4 guys had a catch. That's it. That's all they need. Higbee, Robinson, who's good, Puka, and Kupp. Kupp was third in yards, and they win the game. Stafford was humming. McVay called a great game. And this team should be on a 6-game winning streak. And I think they're going to be a tough out in the playoffs.
And here are your updated numbers after last night. Again, we reminded you, we told you that they were minus 125 to make the playoffs yesterday. That converts to about 55.6%. And we said that if you liked them last night, if you had a strong opinion on the Rams just to win the game, forget about covering for a second here, then you needed to bet that number because it was going to multiply by this morning. Well, the odds actually doubled now. They're minus 250. The percentage went up to 71.4%. That's the minus 250 conversion there. And that's also factoring in, because I think when you watch the game last night and you look at the other teams vying for a playoff spot, a wild card slot there, you're going to say, well, how are they not in? It's still factoring in the Rams potentially needing and starting their guys in Week 18. Otherwise, this percentage would be a lot higher than what it is, in my opinion.
Niners, yeah.
Who did I say?
You said Rams.
Did I say Rams? Yeah, Niners leading that game. Sorry.
Minnesota has the tiebreaker over them, too, because of the conference record. But Minnesota's going to take some L's here. So they're going to beat the passing Paisan and win that game. So it's just a formality. Now, what I want to see, and what I think a lot of fans want to see, is go to Detroit. How good would that be? If that's the 3-6 game, Detroit would host a playoff game for the first time since '93, and Stafford goes back home, and it's the trade. The quarterbacks traded for one another. How good would that be? And I would pick the Rams in that game. Now,
here's the thing. I paid attention last night on X, social media. Every person was saying the same thing. So the Rams would finish hot. Who knows? They might have a win over the 49ers, who might not need the game. Every single person would pick the Rams, which would make me kind of want to go the other way.
Wow, this offense is awesome.
They're terrific right now.
And I'm shocked at how well the defense is playing. The other thing is they just have to do a better job closing games. They screwed around and played with their food last week against Washington. That's 28-7. Couple touchdown drives by Brissett, and it comes down to the onside kick. And here you're right. This game is over. It's a blowout. And then the blocked punt. Rams' second half's a bad beat, and it puts the Saints team total over with what happened after the blocked punt when that game is over. But the creativity, the motion, 6 carries for Puka. But the big thing is what they have with the rushing attack. Williams goes for 100 yards again. Mom's having a good time in the stands. I mean, this guy, it's a whole different dimension of this offense when you can open up the passing game even more because he can just get chunks on the ground with those angry runs.
Yep. The explosive runs are going to be there. And the Saints' rush defense, obviously not very good. It's one of the weakest in the entire league. But when you have Williams running like he is right now, I actually thought when he left the game, I thought, he's going to go to the blue tent. This is going to be concussion protocol time. Mm-hmm. And I did not anticipate him actually coming back in the game last night. And then he did, and he looked awesome. So you have that, along with Kupp, who got banged up during the game last night. But you have Kupp and Nacua as your 2 receivers, which, I mean, the drafting this team has done, they had to have that because they're without first-round picks forever because they sold their souls to win that Super Bowl a couple years ago. It's actually worked out because they've hit it in these late round picks. Like they got that young kid on defense in the 3rd round. Austin pick Nakua was a 5th round pick. That doesn't happen for every single. So Les Snead has done an amazing job here keeping this together. But you have all the receivers for Stafford to throw the ball to, and the way that Williams is running the ball at the same exact time, and they're going for more than 400 yards a game. Awesome.
He's locked in, too. You think you have him, and then he rolls out and he does like the Dan Quisenberry sidearm thing, and you can't stop that. I mean, he's just made some incredible throws the last month here, and he didn't play in the Green Bay game, which was one tiebreaker that they would lose, but they lost that game. But since he came back, it should be a 6-game winning streak and how well he's playing offensively. Now, if you really want to get nuts and drink the Kool-Aid, Mike Florio is saying this team could have the best chance to go to San Francisco and win. Well, I mean, that 42-10 Dallas, what San Francisco did to them, 42-19 against Philly, won by 30 at Pittsburgh, won by 30 at Jacksonville. No one has a better A game. And the first meet in Los Angeles was 30-23, and Stafford threw for 300 yards in that game. So with the way they're humming offensively, he might be on something there. Well, onto something, excuse me.
Yeah, and we've kicked this around a couple of times this week on the show, and that is the thought that this Rams version right now that we're watching could give any team in the NFC playoffs a game. And I said, like on Tuesday when you were up, Paulie, maybe with the exception of the 49ers, because the 49ers have the best A game and their power rating is, going to the moon at this point.
They won't slow them down, though. They'd have to outscore them.
And I think they probably would. I think I'd like the 49ers in that game.
40, okay.
Yeah,
40,
I don't think the Rams get many stops. But so what would the rematch look like with the Rams going to Dallas and playing the Cowboys? Because that was ugly.
That'd be a good game. Yeah, that did get out of control early in the season. That's right. But I think it'd be a whole different ball game this time around. And that it'd be a high-scoring game, and they can hang in that one. I'd also have to rule out Seattle, because San Francisco's dominated Seattle, and they beat them 5 in a row as well. So that'd be a pretty good game too. Although it didn't work out the first time. You're right.
And you know how these divisional teams know each other. They play, and also McVay has done a hell of a job this year. I will point this out last night. When they're up 10-0 and he decided to try the field goal attempt on 4th and 2 from the 28, I hated that. I thought I couldn't believe he was going to do that.
Why'd you bring Mason Crosby in? This guy can't kick.
No, you can't. Why would you not go for it on 4th and 2? I thought that was dumb, uncalled for, missed it. 3 plays later, touchdown for the Saints.
Yep.
Also, later in the game, they had a 4th and 2 at the 3-yard line. I thought he was going to go for it there. He didn't.
Yeah.
But the all-time, mind-numbingly stupid call last night was from Dennis Allen. And if this team misses the playoffs, if the Buccaneers win that division, the Falcons and the Saints are going to be looking for new head coaches next year.
Yeah.
This guy on 4th and 5 with a minute to play at the 42-yard line of the Rams decided, hey, you know what? I know they have all 3 timeouts left, and they're getting the ball at halftime. Let's go for it. This is a good idea.
He punted from the 37 in the first quarter.
I could not look as a guy holding Rams plus 240 from 2 weeks ago to make the playoffs. I love the call. I thought this is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen this year by a coach in the league. That decision to go for it on 4th and 5. I could not believe, but I loved it. And then what happened? Of course, the Rams went down and scored again.
Yep.
And what was he thinking?
That was a horrible decision. And I cannot believe they did not put Winston in this year. And they're just riding it out with Carr, who continues to get booed in home games.
Well, it was. The touchdown pass to give him their first touchdown, that was a nice pass, but also the receiver had the entire secondary burnt by 5 yards. After that, it was all garbage time last night. Had another silly INT. When they go for it on 4th down, he's not close to the receivers.
Well, if this would be a choke job now if Tampa can't win the division. They should be able to beat them next week at home, and now they're favored with, looks like it's Beathard for Jacksonville. So it's right there for Baker and Tampa. And this is just, to think to think the Saints and Atlanta can't go over their win totals with the 2 easiest schedules we've seen in a long, long time.
Oh, yeah.
Unmitigated disaster. Bad job all the way around.
So that updated division price
275, right?
Yeah, DraftKings 270 on the Buccaneers.
Yeah.
Saints are plus 360 in that range. Falcons are plus 750.
Yeah. And Tampa closes with Carolina too. So just get one of these next 2 and I doubt Atlanta can run the table as well, but Right? I thought they'd miss the playoffs. I thought they'd go under their win total. We had a guest on who said Bowles could be the first coach fired. I did not see this coming from Mayfield, but they've had a lot of help though, because there's no way the Saints and Falcons should be under 500 with the garbage they've played. Did you see that tweet Luke sent in? What, the 9 teams have been eliminated from the postseason? Atlanta lost to 5 of them? Six of them, whatever it is? Or 6 have been eliminated, they've lost. Yeah, it's embarrassing. And Art Smith's got to go too.
Yeah,
so.
and every game was the same exact thing this year for that team.
Yeah.
Never changed whatsoever. The Rams were dropping last night to win the NFC during the game.
What would you need for that?
I passed on 40-1.
Oh, that's, yeah, well, you're going to probably have to go
And now this
Dallas or Philly and then San Francisco.
That's right. So they're 30-1 this morning at DraftKings, and the number continued to plummet to win their conference. At this point, yeah, I'll roll over moneyline parlay on the Rams if you like them to come out. Just bet them every game to win and take bet winnings with the original bet, roll it over the next time. That would pay more than what their conference odds are this morning, because that's the path they're going to have to go through.
Yeah, okay, or Detroit. Yeah, Detroit, San Francisco. Then whoever the 2 seed could be.
Right.
Yeah, tough assignment.
But they're fun to watch. That offense is clicking on all cylinders right now. Stafford, tip of the cap, man. This is some of the best football I've ever seen that guy play. He has been lights out. We'll recap more of last night's betting action and win some, lose some up next. While you were sleeping, are we really going to do this? Next season is going to be a ton of fun. Details on that coming up next.
Juice Reel, a free betting intelligence app and a tool every bettor needs. It links your betting accounts into one app, delivers in-depth analytics on your betting history. You have access to the history of billions of bets placed by all Juice Reel users. In-depth betting analytics, billions of data points, enables you to tail the winners and fade the losers. They've developed an AI bot, picking winners at a rate of 60% through 100 games. Find out for yourself. Download Juice Reel. Free app in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store. It's free. Juice Reel, REEL. Go get it.
I think maybe the number one game that I'm intrigued by with the injury report later on this morning is Miami at home against the Cowboys. Game is turned into a pick'em. Cowboys took some money earlier in the week. The reason why I say that is because this week alone, all 5 starters on the Miami offensive line missed practice. And yesterday, Raheem Mostert, who has 20 touchdowns, missed. Looks like he's going to play. On the O-line, Austin Jackson, Robert Hunt, they both missed. Limited. Armstead yet again. Eichenberg yet again. Also limited. Achane, defensively, Holland, Howard, Van Ginkel, who's playing great football this year. So they have a slew of injuries, not even to mention Tyreek Hill yet, but I also think that he's going to play in this game. And on the flip side, you had 2 offensive linemen for the Cowboys, Teron Smith, Zach Martin. They missed practice yesterday. And also Jonathan Hankins in the middle of that defensive line, he didn't practice. And look at what happened on the ground last week against the Cowboys with the Buffalo Bills, a team that doesn't really run the ball that much, but they're like, oh, this is easy. This is 7-8 yards of crack. Let's just keep doing it the entire game.
I love Dallas if Hill doesn't play. And Dak is 7-0 ATS the last 2 years off a loss. Now, certainly the home road splits are cause for concern. 7-0 at home, 6-1 ATS. 3-4 straight up in ATS on the road. I will talk to our guests coming up. I'm also, if you watch the last couple of home, there's not a lot of people at that Miami home game against the Jets.
Oh, this will be 50-50
there'll be plenty of Cowboy fans too, that they're late to the party and buying in. Bad sports town. Now, what is this Tua business? I'm keeping receipts. Is what? You can't beat a good team. What receipts? It's the easiest. Well, you know the case that's being made against you. You can't beat a good team. You haven't done it since week 3 of last year, and it was Buffalo, and you were dominated and thoroughly outplayed, but were fortunate to come back and get that miracle win. So until he does something on the big stage and beats a good team, keep all the receipts you want. You can have a shoebox full of them. You got to beat a good team here. And we'll find out the next 3 weeks. So for all this talk about, that loss against Tennessee was so bad, and they were lost offensively once Hill went out of the game. They could go from 1 seed to blowing the division, because you go Dallas, at Baltimore, and Peekaboo, The game against the Bills could be for the division. And if Buffalo comes to town where they win the division, I'm going to take Buffalo in that game. So I don't like how Miami's playing here.
The team I mentioned before the break, 12-1 ATS. You mentioned it briefly there with Dak overall. But 12-1 ATS when coming off a straight-up loss since 2021, that's the Cowboys. So Mike McCarthy's had his crew bounce back in strong fashion the last 3 years.
It was embarrassing last week, though. I mean, it was... And guys were sick and just got humiliated and down 31-3 late.
No, I will flip it. Tua's been really good at home. He's 19-5 straight up, 17-7 ATS. And the average number there was Dolphins minus 3.5, or a little bit higher than that. That's 71% overall. So I wanted to go back and look because in my one fantasy league, I've been getting a lot of points from the Miami defense recently. And I'm like, this is weird. Why is this happening? So I went back and looked at who they've actually played recently. Because when you break down the numbers and go from week 8 to today, the Dolphins' defensive numbers are like super elite. Total yards per game allowed, they're first. EPA per play, they're first. Passing EPA per play, they're first. Passing yards per game, they're fourth overall. Rushing yards per game allowed, they're first. Rushing EPA per play, they're third. Explosive rush percentage first and points per game first. I'm like, what? How is that possible? They're playing that well. And then from week 8 on, here are the offenses that they have played. The Patriots, 30th in EPA per play. The Chiefs, 7th in EPA per play, but the Chiefs have done not a lot this year on offense overall, and they're not the super high-scoring team, an explosive team that we've watched over the years. But that's the one team in the top 10. The Raiders are 27th. They got the Jets twice, they're 32nd. The Commanders are a dead team walking, they're 22nd. And the Titans, believe it or not, rank middle of the pack EPA per play. And it's not a good offense overall. So now they go from playing those teams for the last 2 months to taking on the Cowboys, who are pissed off after a humiliating loss.
Yep.
I really want to make a case to bet the Cowboys in this game. A strong case. Like one of my biggest bets of the entire year in the NFL.
Yep.
But I need to see the injury report today.
All right. Yep. I'm there with Cleveland. Almost a 6-point move. What do you think? What will Case Keenum do? Will they get to 20 points? And I know the home road splits, but what Stefanski has done here, this offense is humming. And it was a great job the last couple of games by the Texans defense. How the hell did they lose to the Jets and get beat by Zach Wilson? But Flacco, 7 touchdowns in 12 quarters. Pickett, 6 in his last 12 games. The weapon that Njoku's become. Ford, Cooper. And now Cleveland laying 3 on the road. I just... Horrible timing here with the Texans with Stroud going out, who apparently was concussed back-to-back games, too, and shouldn't have been in there.
I was a little freaked out earlier in the week because Joe Flacco had a calf on Wednesday.
Yes.
But he practiced all day yesterday in full. So when that panic was there, like, what if Joe Flacco's actually hurt to the point of where he can't play or he's going to be limited? That corrected itself yesterday. Along with, Stroud not playing in this game, they're also getting... inactive from Will Anderson.
Yeah.
So that's not good because he is like, when it comes to breaking down numbers against the rush or the pass, he's top 5 in both categories as a defensive lineman.
They were going to the playoffs here if Stroud didn't get hurt. Because they play Tennessee at home and then they have the Colts.
They still might.
But I think
they can still, this is a 3-point game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's no...
Well, Cleveland can't stop anybody on the road for whatever reason. Okay. How about the 6-point move in the Tampa game? This looks like Lawrence is going to miss his first game.
Mm-hmm.
Beathard against Baker. And how well Baker's played the last couple of weeks. What he did in Lambeau was nothing short of a miracle.
I got a little faith here in Beathard.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. Points?
I think it's tied
you don't have Kirk and you don't have Jones.
The Kirk loss is going to end up really, really hurting this team. He was a major factor and a huge weapon to open things up there on the offense. The reason why the Buccaneers defense, no great shakes.
No, you're right.
So the reason why I think we can get points in this game and Beathard can be okay is because of that. Now, can they get Etienne going, who has not really been a force here lately? And will this defense have any, I can't believe I'm asking this question, will they be able to neutralize Baker Mayfield? He's coming off of a career game. That can't, to repeat itself is going to be tough, but he also goes from a very weak Packers defense to kind of the same thing here. The Jags defense has been terrible now for a good month.
So who wins this division? because now Atlanta's up to 2.5. Heineke is the start of the rest of the year. Atlanta's season on the line.
I'm going to go Colts.
I think they're going to do it.
I go Colts, and I think Jaguars can miss the playoffs.
I think the Colts could lose to Atlanta, but it'd still be okay because they'll beat the Raiders and they'll beat Houston, who they pummeled in the first game.
Yep.
Although it was early in the season. And that's going to give Steichen Coach of the Year. It has to. And Jacksonville's going to blow this.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Do you agree with the line move in the Colts game this week?
I don't think Heineke's worth that much, right?
I mean, it's almost a 6-point move, Paulie.
Yeah. Well, Brown and McKenzie are suspended for the season. Pittman looks to be good to go, but they've won 5 of 6, and they're 5-2 on the road. But every game this year, as you pointed out, this is the point spread with the Falcons.
Yeah.
But I guess it's just the season on the line have to do it, and why they're up to 2.5.
We told you about the Chargers earlier in the show, how bad they are at home, ATS. The Falcons are not much better. They're 16-30 against the spread. That's 34.8% since 2018. One of the worst marks in the entire league. If this touches 3, I'm going to have to take the Colts. And it's leaning that way because look at this. You see the Falcons -2.5 and -118. The clear coaching edge here, crystal clear, is on the Colts side.
11-3 to the over on the year, Colts. When the opponent gets 20 points or more, Minshew is 2-17 straight up. They're finding ways to win.
Yeah.
They're getting it done. I cannot believe this. And I can't believe Jacksonville's going to blow this division. Now, they get Carolina next week, and then they play Tennessee. So they swept Indy. But I will see what the Falcons are made of Sunday.
Jacksonville, again, they were playing to be I can't get that out of my head.
20,000?
Oh, they were minus 20,000 to make the playoffs, and
2,000 division.
They would have been the 1 seed on that Tuesday morning after the Monday night game against the Bengals.
Epic choke job. And again, what I said earlier, 6 teams have been eliminated from the playoffs. Atlanta's lost to 4 of them.
Yeah, I cannot.
Getting beat by Carolina and scoring
can't.
7 points is a travesty.
No way I'm betting Atlanta in this game. I'll tell you what, we don't have a lot of good teaser options this week.
Yeah.
But Falcons up to 8.5 to me. If you can find something else, maybe keep it open-ended for next week. That seems like a pretty good teaser to me. We'll get back into that Dolphins-Cowboys game coming up next. Orlando Alzugari is going to join us from the big show in Miami. The Fins O-line, again, decimated. What does he anticipate in terms of an injury report today?
Looking to bet smarter than VSiN has the perfect holiday gift for you. Sign up on the holiday special. Get it today. VSiN Pro Access. Everything we do through May 1st for only $79. Unlimited access to the best bets, betting splits, 24/7 video, all the guides. Limited time holiday offer. VSiN.com/subscribe. VSiN.com/subscribe.
On the Dolphins and Cowboys game, as Orlando Alzugari joins the program. He's been covering the Dolphins for more than 3 decades. In Miami. His show is called The Big O Radio Show, and you can follow him on X. He's at Big O Show. Orlando, it's good to talk to you today. How are you?
It is great, gentlemen. It's Friday. We got some football right around the corner, man. Can't wait.
Yeah, I'm anticipating the injury report today. It's very vital for this game in terms of betting it. And I'll ask you, I mean, the entire offensive line missed at some point this week, missed practice. What is your level of concern overall for Robert Hunt and Austin Jackson on the O-line and some of the other guys who missed this week?
Well, look, I think you're going to get most everybody back except for Robert Hunt. I think Robert Hunt may be another week away before he comes back. Austin Jackson, the oblique wasn't considered as serious as Jalen Phillips' oblique was that kept him out a little bit earlier in the season. So the Austin one, I would not – he's such a tough kid. This is a guy that gave bone marrow to his sister. Senior year at USC, couldn't even practice throughout the year, played every week, didn't miss a game at USC, but obviously he didn't have the strength to practice, just play enough during the week, and then gets drafted and was 19 years old when they drafted him. He's now 24, and he's really matured into a player now, and it's really cool to see. And he's proven to be mentally and physically tough, because physically he wasn't holding up and he was, taking a pounding from people all over and being criticized. And this year, he really took his game to another level after last year being injury-riddled with that high ankle injury. I think Austin's a tough dude. I think he's going to come back and play this week. Hunt, I think, will be out. Liam Eichenberg will do his thing. Lester Cotton will be there at left guard. And Teron Armstead should be able to play at left tackle. And Kendall Lamb, by the way, who has played left tackle when Teron Armstead is out, has been maybe one of the MVPs of the team, because when Teron Armstead is out in the past, last year, it was a disaster. Now when he's been out, Kendall Lamb has held fort and held it strong, and it's been pretty impressive that they were able to find a left tackle. Again, we were talking off the air. These guys won against the Jets front last week with an entire backup line, and one of them is a third stringer at this point. That's unheard of in this league. Most people can't field 5 guys. These guys are able to field the whole entire second unit to put up against the Jets front, which is not an easy front.
What's the update on Tyreek Hill? And if he plays, what do you think? How close he is to 100%?
I don't think nobody's close to 100% right now, but he's probably somewhere in the 80 to 90 range. And, you guys know, Tyreek at 80 or 90 is faster still than the entire league. He practiced last week right before the game, which means he was really close. So I expect him and X to play. So I think that's also big, because obviously you're going up against CeeDee Lamb and the boys. You're going to need as many defensive backs as possible. So I think you're going to get X back to go along with Jalen Ramsey. I don't think Holland will come back, but I think you will get Tyreek back also here in the process. So Tyreek and Waddle and that explosive pair is going to be on the field.
Okay, so then how about some of the other guys as well that either missed or were limited this week? Mostert looks like he's going to go. Achane, Howard, Holland, and Van Ginkel.
Yeah, all of them except Holland. Holland is the one that's dealing with two sprained MCLs, and that's kind of taken a little bit of a while. And I think they're going to, they've done one thing. I got to give them credit. They've been incredibly responsible with their injuries, and they've paced these guys, and they haven't hurried guys back. I don't think Holland is the one guy that you hurry back, because he's so important overall. Plus, Elijah Campbell and Deshaun Elliott and guys, they've done a decent job. I think you'll be able to fill in and get by with that, at least for now. But Holland would be the one guy that I would question if he returns this week.
I have a bet, and I told you this before you came on. I have a bet on Mike McDaniel. I made this back in early September at 22 to 1 to win Coach of the Year. I thought he had a real legit chance. Maybe before that blown lead against Tennessee, and now others have surpassed him on the odds board, Orlando. But watching from afar, there's a lot to like about this guy. As somebody who has covered this team for 33 years and watching Mike McDaniel every single day, what impresses you so much about him?
This is the best balance I've ever seen. I've been covering it since the final couple of years of Shula. Mm-hmm. And so I've covered everybody since Shula in their entire run, and there always seemed to be some kind of a missing element to the coach. Didn't know how to build an offense, didn't understand defense, didn't understand personnel, didn't understand human beings. Like Joe Philbin and Brian Flores had very poor people skills. Things like that. We ran into all kinds of different problems. And Mike, the only thing he lacks is experience. And that's the one thing that you can't get anywhere until you actually get on the job and you're actually doing it. But when it comes to understanding both sides of the ball, building a staff, for him to find Fangio this offseason, that was huge, because he proved he can build an offensive staff, something that Brian Flores could not build, and that's why he was setting the team back for a couple of years. And then here's the other thing. Any of us that have kids, kids nowadays are a little different than the way I was raised and brought up. It's completely different. You got to communicate with them completely different. Well, Mike McDaniel is cut from that cloth. That stuff that a lot of us grew up with teachers and coaches and parents and screaming at you, and it was the norm, and it was like water off a duck's back, and it didn't affect you. That doesn't work nowadays. It just does not. You got to have a different approach to these people nowadays, because they react differently to different types of discipline. And so Mike is fantastic at communicating with today's generation and reaching them with dialogue instead of reaching them by just screaming at them. And because that's how we used to respond to it. And it was just normal, but that's just not the way it is. And I think that that's the magic, that he knows how to massage those kind of situations. And then at the same time, you saw it on Hard Knocks when he was, this past week, sorry if I'll give you a little spoiler there, but he trashed himself for trash plays that he called. And I think that that's huge too, that you tell the team, hey, yeah, you guys might have screwed up on this play or that play, but I screwed up on this play. This is where I made you fail, and this is where I made you fail. And I think that's also huge, that he shows the human side of it at the same time. And it's just something that I have not seen here, man. Somebody that really understands the good and the bad and what you really need in order to get it done. And he's done a marvelous job that way.
Great perspective. Great answer. 2 minutes left. With this tough gauntlet left with the schedule, do you think they win the division, and what do you think happens in the last 3 games?
Yeah, in the past, I would have told you no, because they just don't have the kind of team. I think they have the shot here. I think they can actually do it. I think they're going to win at least 2 of the next 3 games and take the division and get into the playoffs and start winning a game in the playoffs. I think they were on the brink last year. If it wasn't for Mike wasn't ready on that 3rd down, you might have been able to shock the world and shock the Bills with that one. This team is different. It's wired different. I think this team wants to be really, really good, guys. And I think it starts this week with Dallas. You got to win, and they know the stage is set for them. They know that this is the final threshold for them, that the only way they're ever going to be taken serious is by winning these kind of games. Miami has beaten Baltimore 2 years in a row now. Even with Brian Flores, Tua came off the bench and beat him. So Miami's got to try to find a way to take care of business. But there is no more important game than the one at the end of the season against the Bills. They've got to send the message that the torch needs to be passed on that final week. So it's going to be really interesting, because if they do cross that threshold, then I think you have a new type of Miami Dolphins team. The sad part is, this game this week, it's almost like the Fraud Bowl. The loser is the one that takes the title. And that's because they both have had, obviously the Dallas Cowboys have had way more overhyped than ever the Dolphins. But the few times the Dolphins get hyped, they fall down. So we'll see what happens on Sunday. The loser will not walk away pretty. That's for sure.
Yeah. Awesome knowledge today, Orlando. You can follow him on X. He's at Big O Show, and you can get his radio show as well when you search Big O Radio Show, wherever you get your podcasts as well. Thanks so much for the time today. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Anytime, guys. Be good out there.
Very good. Good. Very good stuff there. McDaniel, the offensive line, all of it.
Well, he's right about the Fraud Bowl. And he's right about what happens when they play good teams. It's the get beat by 30.
That's true.
Again, Buffalo. Lost by 14 to Philly. Couldn't move the ball against Kansas City.
Thought about this a lot recently.
The Tennessee loss could back really. Yeah.
You know who Mike McDaniel is? Mike McDaniel is the coach everybody was hoping Brandon Staley would be. But even better.
Yeah.
Up next, how about 34% in this spot the last 46 games since 2018?
Follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
It's good to have you on board here on a Football Friday, a pre-Christmas Football Friday. Mitch Moss, Paulie Howard, live in downtown Las Vegas from the Circa Resort and Casino. And this show is brought to you by DraftKings every Friday at this time. Adam Chernoff joins the program. He's awesome, analyzing, betting on the NFL, breaking down all these games. You can follow him on X at Adam Chernoff, and you can listen to his podcast. It's called The Simple Handicap. Adam, happy holidays. Merry Christmas. How are you?
Same to you guys. Doing great. We are a couple hours away from a big weekend, so maybe a bit of an exhale here as we get football spread out across a couple days.
Yep, agreed. Well, before we get into the games, your takeaways from last night, the final score, little misleading. That was all Rams. They were awesome on offense yet again. What caught your eye watching them take out the Saints last night?
Another playoff contender team over. And this has been kind of sneaky the last 2 weeks. Last week on the segment, I think a lot of people enjoyed some of the totals that were given out. Saturday games were going over, got a few more on Sunday, and it's probably like, why are we talking so many overs here? What's going on? But guys, we've seen 7 games in the last 3 weeks between these wild card teams in the AFC and the NFC playing each other that are kind of like, you have all these teams, 6 in the AFC, 6 in the NFC. They're kind of bunged up for those last 1 or 2 playoff spots for the wild cards, 6 and 7, 7 and 7, 8 and 7, right in that range. All these games have gone over. And so what's happening here? Why is this happening? I thought last night was a really good illustration of what's going on. We've seen a couple teams in these games get out to big leads, but they haven't taken the foot off the gas like they traditionally have during the regular season. We've seen the teams trailing get into chase mode, and these defenses are playing this prevent, and we're getting teams catching up. Think back to Minnesota, Cincinnati. Cincinnati comes roaring back in the fourth quarter. You're getting all these fourth down decision-making that you're leading to more aggression. You're having teams go for it. You're having teams fail around midfield because they're electing not to punt at a slightly higher rate. We're seeing pass rates for these teams spike quite a bit as well. And this all just kind of represents that we're in kind of the elimination game phase with all of these teams when they end up playing against each other. There's so much more urgency and desperation in these games. And where it's getting really interesting, last night was kind of the first example we've had in a couple weeks where it wasn't the case because that total closed 45.5. But we have so many QB question marks that we're usually seeing these games with really short totals, like a few we'll talk about today. But that game, to me, had a lot of points that were unrealized last night, where we had the fourth down stops like close to the goal line. We had some short field goals. We had the Saints turning it over around midfield a couple times. But it just kind of represented what we're getting when we have these 2 wild card teams facing off. And I think it's going to be like that the rest of the season. It's just these teams are playing completely different in these matchups than what you see during the regular season so far. And the overs keep coming in. So that's 7-0 now with these teams and the wild card spots playing each other the last 3 weeks.
How many other games fit that profile to you this weekend then?
Well, so we have 2 more. We have the Saturday game, Pittsburgh-Cincinnati, which essentially acts as an elimination game. Cincinnati 8-6, Pittsburgh 7-7. So there's a big emphasis on that game as well. And then Cleveland-Houston as well. Houston 8-6, Cleveland 9-5. Significant game for both sides. I think we should talk about each one. Where do we want to start? Do we want to go Saturday game?
Yeah, start with Saturday. Rudolph in, no chase. Browning's been awesome.
So exactly right. Here we go with the total again. A QB game question mark. And this has been the case for so many of these. We've had uncertainty at quarterback. We've had outdoor games with weather. Hasn't mattered. They've still got over the total. Here's another short total, 38 or 37.5, depending where you're looking this morning. We'll talk 38. We'll go over 38. Now, this is a Bengals defense that in that Minnesota game lost DJ Reader. Significant loss on the defensive line for a defense that isn't very good to begin with and has been trending down the last 4 weeks. But you take him off of that defensive line, it gives Pittsburgh an out on offense. They're going to be able to run the football up the middle on the Cincinnati Bengals defensive line now. It's a significant loss. And so this downgrade that you're getting from Trubisky to Rudolph maybe isn't sort of going to be the full impact you would expect because there's such an out for the Steelers to move the ball on offense. On the other side, we saw Jake Browning against a very good Vikings defense figure things out, start to move the football. Concerning now that you're without Chase for this game, but I think that this Steelers defense now without both of their starting safeties is still going to give up big plays to this Bengals offense. And so to me, this is another game, even with it being that divisional rematch, which traditionally skews under, we're just that too short of a total for how important this game is for both of these teams and how we've seen all of these games trend. So I would go to the over here and continue that look. Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, over 37.5.
Okay, and you had Houston last week. You've been on fire. Now what do you think? Cleveland, Houston, Keenum again. And the thing I can't get past, Cleveland number 1 in points per game at home, allowed, last on the road.
So we'll go over here as well. And this is, again, it's an ugly total, but it's my favorite look of the week at the moment as we're looking at current prices here on a Friday morning. So we'll go over 40.5. Okay. Another game that fits that profile very well. You mentioned the Browns defense. It's been skewed from the points perspective, which is the commonly referred to stat, just because the Browns have given up so many explosive plays on the road. There's some other stats that show that the Browns on the road have played a little bit better, but I really think that it does matter. And you're seeing the performance. It just doesn't look the same when the Browns are on the road. Couple injuries up front in the pass rush for Cleveland to keep an eye on as well that I think can be impactful. But this for Cleveland going on the road, it's the first time we've seen Flacco indoors since the Rams game. The last 2 weeks have been outside. A little bit of weather impact. It was a good Bears defense last week. Now they're playing a Texans defense that's trending down, has defensive injuries, multi-level. You're missing likely Will Anderson. Cashman's banged up at linebacker. Thomas in the secondary. Multi-level injuries impacting the Texans defense, which I think is going to be a problem. Then you have to remember they just played overtime as well against Tennessee. Game went nearly a full extra 10 minutes. So that was a big game for Houston. Now coming back, I think Case Keenum is a little bit more comfortable in his likely second start in a row. And so to me, this is a spot where it's just another one of these games that fits very well into that profile. The Browns' pass rate has been through the roof as is with Flacco. And I think they continue throwing. And I think we see Houston do their part as well. But super short total here at 40. Let's go over in this one as well, as both of these teams play to that same sort of urgency we've seen from all these playoff matchups.
What do you expect Saturday night and the respected money taking the Chargers and the points?
Okay, so if you're watching right now, we'll do the same thing we did with this one like we did with Houston last week, because most spots right now have the Chargers at 12.5. This is a standalone game on Saturday. A lot of people watching this are going to be struggling to find the streaming service that is exclusive to carry this game. So maybe give yourself a 5 to 10 minute buffer before kickoff. If you're sitting down to watch this, that's going to be a fun scramble for many. But wait this one out until tomorrow. There's going to be a lot of interest in Buffalo, and it's probably very likely going to push this back to 13. I like the Chargers at home getting 13 points. I think they keep this much more competitive. We talk about things that have happened this season, like the playoff games. This is a spot with the new coaching bump that we have seen 2 other times this season with the Raiders and the Panthers. In both of those instances, it came through, and we both times saw that team get a little bit of value on the numbers. So this game was 9.5 on the look ahead, and it was kind of the perfect storm of things that happened last week to push this number out as far as it is. You had the Bills dominate. The Cowboys, who were dealing with the flu, played much worse than anybody expected. And then you had the Chargers obviously quit on Brandon Staley on Thursday night in a game that everybody was watching. So we see essentially a 4.5 point adjustment. And what's interesting is with market ratings that cover the league as a whole based on closing point spreads versus final scores. If you look up to this point in the season, the Bills and the Chargers were rated within about 4 to 4.5 points of each other on a neutral field. And so obviously you have the downgrade to Herbert, a lot of that priced into those differentials. But now we're seeing that off the charts because the Chargers have dropped from about 14 or 15th in those ratings all the way to 32nd. And the Bills have jumped up all the way to second. And so we've just seen a massive adjustment from last week to this week that I don't think is warranted to begin with. I think it went too far, but we saw it go even further because of this coaching change, which is actually a plus historically for teams in the following week. And something I'll say about Smith, who's coming in as the head coach, I'm not going to put him on the same level from a motivational standpoint as Antonio Pierce. But when we think about the big issue with the Chargers, obviously it's been injuries, but it's been a defense that's had a lot of issues all season long. Smith has been with the defense for a long time. Players really like him. And I think you get this element in a similar way that the Raiders got from this rallying around the new coach coming in, who's the defensive guy that they know. I think you're going to get that same effect with the Chargers on Saturday night. And so to me, this number has gone too far, allowing too many. I'll say wait right now. Wait for 13. You'll get it tomorrow. Take the Chargers plus 13 for Saturday Night Football.
Okay, excellent breakdown. Adam Chernoff, our guest. Again, follow him on X. He's at Adam Chernoff. Podcast is called Simple Handicap. We have about a minute left in the segment. You're going to hang around for one more segment with us. Who would you give the MVP to today?
I don't know. I don't want to. I'm not afraid to say I don't know. And then for this one, I don't know. I think it's clearly the winner of this game based on the odds that are being presented. I say this game is Baltimore, San Francisco. I mean, you have the two favorites playing each other in a massive game on Christmas. Everyone's going to be watching, but it's so hard to handicap the voters that I don't have a good answer for it.
Okay, because we'll then tie it into who you think is going to win the game, what you make of the point spread now, 5.5 at last check pretty much everywhere for the 49ers now, and that's been kind of ping-ponging back a little bit this week. But I want to get you your breakdown on that and find out who you like on Christmas night, the biggest game of the week, one of the best matchups that we've had, if not the best of the entire year. That's next with Adam Chernoff here on Follow the Money. It's VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Holidays are here. Let Omaha Steaks take the guesswork out of gifting. Get gift packages that are guaranteed to make spirits bright all winter long. OmahaSteaks.com. Save 50% off site-wide. Use code VSiN at checkout. Get an additional $30 off your order. Filet mignons, burgers, jumbo franks. Easy to prepare meals that are ready in a flash. Omaha Steaks, the possibilities are endless. OmahaSteaks.com. 50% off site-wide. Use code VSiN. Get an additional $30 off. Gift from the heart and a gift that will be remembered with every unforgettable bite. Minimum order may be required. Double shot every Friday with Adam Chernoff. Simple Handicap Podcast. Rolling on with the NFL. Art Smith going into your pocket here. You got to win out to go over the win total. The line has crept up now as we go from Ritter to Heineke. Also some suspensions with the Colts. Now Atlanta laying 2.5. What do you think? And also you've been on this Colts over train.
Art Smith has been in my pocket for about 4 months at this point. It's not getting any better. Boy, this is do or die for Atlanta. That game against the Panthers, that was just painful to sit through. You're right, Paulie. This number took off yesterday. It wasn't injury-driven either. It's been full-on pro opinion entering the market. We had one earlier in the week. A couple other groups have had them since. This number is quite telling based on the move here. I think this is a point, though, where the Colts coming in a bad spot. That is a defense that's getting away with a ton, and an offense that, as great as they have been for those overs, again, like you're looking at them facing the Steelers down 2 scores at home. This is a bit of a rocky spot. The Falcons get their offensive line back. Several starters have been out, all trending towards playing. Heineke in gives them a little bit of a bump. You're going to see Robinson more involved because Heineke's under center. This is a spot where the Falcons win, cover, keep the season alive, keep the NFC South interesting. Going to be tough to get through, but we're taking the Falcons one last time.
Wow, you are confident here with this team, and I listen to the podcast all the time. It feels to me like you're a big Steichen guy.
Definitely. Mitch, you said it in the first segment, like the coaching mismatch here is enormous. It is. I don't know if it's enough to overcome the spot and how it sets up for Atlanta in this one-off game. I think that this is a spot where Atlanta plays through. But there's no question Steichen's done a phenomenal job. But this is a spot where I'm going with Atlanta.
Okay, so what you said before the break, it is very difficult to handicap the voters when it comes to awards. Purdy is minus $2 in that range almost everywhere, even a little bit higher here at Circa. The point spread for this game is 5.5. Paulie thought when it was the opener at 5, I think he said it's way too short. And I've heard a ton of people make the case for the 49ers. What is your position here on this game?
Okay, it's going to completely come down to what happens with the 49ers defensive line injuries. I think that is a massive impact on this game. So watch later today, see what's going on with Hargrave, see what's going on with Armstead. What does not get discussed, in my opinion, enough is the fact that the 49ers on the season, 28th in EPA per play against the run, 22nd in defensive success rate against the run. You can run on San Francisco. The way that San Francisco has been able to disguise that is by building massive leads. So teams have not been able to run on San Francisco because they have been playing catch up. If you are Baltimore now and you're coming into this game, you have a passing offense the last few weeks that has been anything but crisp is the way that I would describe it. It's not right. The drop back passing game hasn't been as good as we probably expected it to be earlier in the year. This has to be a game, especially now with Keaton Mitchell out, where you lose more explosiveness, where the Ravens have to revert and just run like crazy like we have seen them do the last couple of seasons. This cannot be a game that Monken wants his offense to look like how he wants it to. He needs to revert. He needs to run Lamar. He needs to use multiple backs out of the backfield. He needs to attack the middle of the field. If those two guys are out, I think you're going to see interest in the Ravens and this number tick down. Now, with all of that said, if those two guys play, if the 49ers get an early lead, I don't know how the Ravens are consistently going to get stops, because this is a 49ers offense that's playing at another level. And there's just a lot of variance to me with this. I don't have an opinion on the side. My initial thoughts were, how can I find a way to bet Baltimore in this game? Because I thought maybe it was just pushing a little bit too high. That was my stance on it. But to me, it all comes down to those two defensive line injuries. Don't know the status of them. Can't bet it. If they're in, this number is going to go up. If they're out, this number is going to come down. That's what the Ravens have to do in this spot if they want a chance to stay competitive with the Niners.
Okay. Our previous guest called it the fraud bowl. Certainly the loser of this game, everyone will mock them and say you can't beat anybody good. Miami at home against Dallas. All 10 Miami wins are against teams with a losing record. What do you think?
Yeah, I kind of throw that angle out the window for this game specifically, because I think you can say it about both teams. And I think if you're evaluating sort of the more fraudulent of either, if you can even call it that, you're probably criticizing the Dolphins' schedule, especially the offenses they have faced recently. You're probably criticizing that a little bit more than you would be criticizing what the Cowboys have done. The reason I liked the Cowboys in this game was because I thought last week wasn't maybe a true representation of what they are. And I know the Bills dominated them, but I do think that flu situation really mattered. And we've seen it really now for 4 weeks, where any player that has had this illness or flu designation on the injury report, their performance has dipped significantly. The Cowboys had 10 plus guys fit that criteria. And so again, it's not a full excuse that I'm lobbing out. They still got absolutely killed, but I think that they certainly can show better in this game. What worries me for Dallas in this spot is they lead the league in man coverage rate. They play more man than any other team in the NFL. If Dan Quinn keeps the defense consistent and goes out with the same coverage scheme and tries to go man straight up against the Dolphins wide receivers, it doesn't matter how many offensive line injuries the Dolphins have. Tua is going to get the ball out of his hand in under 2.2 seconds even. He's going to get it out quick. These wide receivers are going to win, and the Dolphins are going to put up a ton of points. So Dan Quinn has to throw some sort of an adjustment out. The path here for the Cowboys defensively is pressure up front. It's going to have to get there extremely quick, but the Dolphins have had at some point this week every single offensive line starter not participating in practice. And so that's going to be a massive injury report for Miami that we're going to see later today. The status of the guys on the O-line are huge, because that's really going to dictate if the Cowboys can do enough on defense to potentially earn the cover. So for me, Cowboys are nothing but waiting to see that injury report. Hold off on making any bets yet.
Okay, final game here on the docket. Important one for the Vikings. They get the Lions twice over the final 3 weeks of the season in their playoff lives on the line, obviously. Respected money on the Vikings this week. Lions are now down to 3. It's even money here on that 3 at circa, and I'm seeing that trend in other spots the same way. Do you agree with the Vikings money this week?
Mitch, I'd say respected money is an understatement. It's been very respected money all week. Pros I talked to, they're all on it. Pros who are in group chats with other pros saying they're all on it too. Like, it has been consistent pro money all week on Minnesota. Detroit's going to be a very, very popular side this week in terms of just people going out, looking at the number and taking it. And despite all of that and the volume coming in on Detroit, I mean, there's been nothing but buys coming in on Minnesota. And so to me, that's been pretty telling, because you think about Detroit last week, they were one of the more popular pro sides overall against the Denver Broncos. And the reason we're seeing this flip is because the Denver Broncos defensively compared to the Minnesota Vikings defensively, night and day in terms of tendencies of scheme, in terms of pressure rate, in terms of how frequently they're able to switch up against play action. everything that the Broncos do poorly is everything that the Vikings do well. And the Lions were able to run the ball consistently. They got play action going. They took advantage of the Broncos' third road game in a row. And now they're facing a Vikings team that is just such a different matchup for them that I think it's going to be a problem. And fitting to end with the good old Jared Goff betting checklist. Is he on the road? Is he laying points? Is he under pressure? And, I mean, we've been talking about it for 4 years, and you're saying yes to all three in this game against the Vikings. And we know that's where his performance dips quite a bit. And so really the reaction here from pros is that win against Detroit was solely matchup based. It wasn't necessarily them sorting everything out. Now they're facing the Vikings on the road in a tough spot in an early game in a packed stadium. Lots of love for the Vikings from everybody that I respect so far this week.
You're the man. We have 45 seconds here. For those who don't know, Yamamoto signed overnight with the Dodgers, 12 years, $325 million. You had a question for us about the Dodgers?
Are the Dodgers not allowed to promote the Angels? Or, pardon me, are the Rams not allowed to promote the Angels? It was like Ohtani just arrived in the city yesterday. He's been there for 5 years.
I know, right? Yes.
It's 45 minutes away. Yeah. It was the most ridiculous promo of an athlete I've seen. Well, I don't know. There must be a disagreement there between the Rams and the Angels. That was silly.
No, good observation. Follow him on X, at Adam Chernoff. His podcast is called The Simple Handicap. Love talking to you, man. Happy holidays. Have a great day with you, the wife, the family, coming up this weekend as well with Christmas. Thank you. Best of luck this weekend.
Same to you guys. Same to everybody watching as well. We'll see you on the other side of the weekend.
Yep. We'll recap last night's betting action with Win Some, Lose Some next here on VSiN.